Well, hello. I am starting this video. I am making books from candy boxes. And what I've done is I put the candy that comes in those boxes in little tuppers. And I'm going to gift the grandkids with these books after I've made them, little notebooks. Traveler's notebook style books. So I already started this one, and I will use both books to demonstrate how I am making these books. So I will start off with this one. What I've done is I have cut off the corners, or the edges, and every box it's folded over and it's glued, so I want to keep the side that's double glued so we have thicker area in the spine. So I trimmed off this side, this edge, and I trimmed off these edges, and this is going to be the cover for the book. The first thing I'm going to do is to glue these pieces of paper. Well, the first thing I did was measure my book and decide what size the inside covers would be, and the outside cover. This is the outside cover. This will become an inside cover, and also the page. This will be a cover for the insert. And I decided what size I was going to make the insert pages. And I wrote all that down so I have my numbers to reference when I make other books. Using art glitter glue, I'm just going to do two sides. Because though this is decorative and it will reinforce the cover, I do want I'll use this one for this. I do want to have this be pockets. So I'm going to line this up perfectly. I'd already trimmed them, and I wanted them to fit inside. I don't need to glue this edge because I'm going to put fabric here, and when I glue that, it's going to glue down these edges. Then I'm going to this is going to be my front cover. I glued these once and took them apart. There was a film crew in here videotaping the artists that have their studios here in this business, and I got all excited showing off and forgot that I was going to use these for creating my own YouTube video. Line everything up nicely. Take off my gooey gluey fingers, and I just wipe the glue. I'm using parchment paper because glue doesn't stick to the parchment paper. So now I've got that. I'm going to let that dry. And this is a cover sheet. I decided what I was going to use for the cover. And what I did was I cut it to the size of the inside cover, which would be 5 3/4 this way. But I used the full paper because I wanted the excess, because I'm going to make a tuck for the cover. So what I did was I needed it to be 2 7/8. So I simply did this. I lined it up to 2 7/8, and then I bent it. I just bent it down, and that gave me the back covers. And then I just folded this over that edge so that I can use it for this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this large double-sided glue, or double-sided tape, and I am going to, first off, I'm going to mark the edge of my crease there. And I'm going to go from that mark to this side all the way. I'm just going to draw my cut line. Now I'm just going to go cut off the now that becomes a place where things can be tucked in. So I will glue that edge, just this edge, down here at the bottom. Give it a little bit of glue. And I'm using art glitter glue. As you can see, I've had this bottle for a long time. I just refill it. And now I'm going to reinforce the edges using my little tiny attacher. I'm doing this so that because the inside of these are plasticized, which means there's a plastic film that has been inked onto the surface. And because of that, the glue won't hold very well for long. It'll eventually come apart. So in order to reinforce it so that these stay, because they're going to see a lot of use, I'm just going to do 3 tiny attacher staples, itty bitty staples. Any stapler that does mini staples will work for this. And I will also do a couple here. But I want it this way. Okay. And the nice thing about these papers from Tim Holtz, they're Tim Holtz papers, which are hard to find anymore, is there are matching fabric pieces that I can use, and I'm going to reinforce this with fabric. Simply because right here, as you can see, it was a place where you could pop open the box and have a place to drop out the candy. Well, that's a weakness there, even though we have this extra thing glued to it. So I'm going to make sure I make this a little bit stronger. And it'll make it look a little nicer too. I'm going to cut it a little bit bigger, which can be trimmed off after I glued it. And I also don't want that whole piece. I think I just want half of it. So I'm going to go like this, fold it in half. And just for ease of trimming, I'm going to fold it in half again, lining up the cut edge as easy as possible. And then I'm just going to trim off this part. There we go. And I'll save this piece for another future project. I'm going to use this Beacon Fabri-Tac glue. It seems to hold the best, and because it's got a stretch quality to it, it means it's flexible, which is what you want when you're doing bookmaking. You don't need a lot of this glue. A little bit goes a long way. I'm not adding more glue now, I'm just spreading the glue that I already added down, but I will add glue in here. Now that I've already added as much as I want, I'm just spreading it. Not adding, but spreading. This is an acetone-based glue. It dries quickly, but it is strong, strongly scented. Check this again. Yeah. Okay, let's put this on top of there, and then I will do this. And then I will take this and wipe down any, wipe off any excess. I don't mind that that area is kind of loose because it gives it a, this is obviously a grunge look here, so, and there we have it. Now that needs to dry for a little while, but I can go ahead and trim it here. And just leave just a little bit of the ragged hanging out. The nice thing about this glue is when it's semi-dry, you can roll off any excess, but this paper towel picked it up pretty good, so I'm going to let that dry. One thing I'm going to do is put some notches here. Now this has had time to dry and it's reinforced. I can do this with a circle cutter. I can cut out half circles, and the nice thing, oh, I do have it marked. I've got a notch that shows me right where the halfway point is on this. I'm just guesstimating where the center is, and that makes it, it indicates that this is a pocket and that stuff can be slipped into it, which I will slip stuff into it. Makes a handy little spot for receipts and whatnot. So then the next steps are to put in the holes for the, and I'm going to, this is a tool for punching and setting brads and stuff. I'm going to set it for 1/8. I'm going to use the smaller ones of these, and I'm going to do, first I'm going to punch the holes for Traveler's Notebook style books. Here's one that I've already made, and I can show you quickly. This, of course, holds it closed. And these are the inserts that I've made. Now, Traveler's Notebooks are designed so that you can add. So you can use any kind of paper and make your own, just put paper here if you wanted to and just use it over and over again. And you have the holes punched. with the rivets. And those holes, you pull the elastic through and tie it. What I've done is I've created these to be include a sketchbook, and I do the sketchbook with folded pages so you can have, if you wanted to have bigger, or you can just use it for a notebook. Doesn't have to be a sketchbook. And then it's just a junk journal here with ephemera and stickers. So in the middle, you take into the middle and you take an elastic to put the two books together. And then you can take them. This is an envelope to use for pockets, for receipts and extra receipts and stuff, or ephemera. Give it a tug, and there you have it, an interchangeable. And these are pretty common use for planners and for journaling and for traveling. And I always include an extra insert. So now I want to do two here, about a 1/4 inch, about a 1/2 inch, about a 1/4 inch, and about a 1/2 inch, and in the center. So I'm not going to be measuring, it helps if I put it right at the edge. There's two holes where I can make a, what do they call it, 3/16 and 1/8 hole. So I'm going to do the 1/8 hole, which is right there, but I line the edge up with this hole, and that gives me about a 1/2 inch. Oh, I forgot to measure the center. Pretty handy little ruler. right out there. Okay. Now I have my 4 holes, which I might have to trim a little bit here. Now let's determine what we're going to do, what color we want for these are bigger ones. I don't want the bigger ones, I want the little ones. And I think, see how many blue ones I have. I think I'm going to go with blue on this one. I want 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the blue. Maybe I'd rather have pink. I think I'd rather have pink. With this one. With the other one, we'll go with blue. 4, 5. These in here. And I'm going to keep these. Take the lid off of this and use this to put those in so we don't scatter them accidentally. Even though it might scatter these. Okay. Well, that one went slightly off center. I don't know how I did that. Probably tilting it. Oh well, it's going to be a little different. So we put now we switch this to this side to set the brads. And first I use this setting, this swivels for the different size. And I'm going to use this first to set it. And I line up the post to go down the center. And then I give it a good squeeze. And as you can see, it bent it a little, but it's still not bent all the way. So then I go to this setting and I do it again. Line up the post, give it a squeeze, and as you can see, it rounded it and lined it beautifully with the edge. Let's see if I can center this hole just a little bit more without too much trouble. Hope I can do this. I'm just going to take a tiny bit out. That's a little more centered. Put the next one in. I hope this is going to hold better. I think we'll do good. Nice. Got a little bit too much fabric there, so I'm going to trim it a little bit so it doesn't interfere with the settings. Beautiful. Perfect. And now I want some elastic. Now, I want the elastic to go around this twice. And then to also go around this. So I'm going to cut it just a little bit bigger than that so I have some excess to work with. And now I will put this back in the container. Need to get some twist ties in here. Hello.
Hi, how are you? Sorry,
It's fine.
we are bugging you.
Oh, that's okay. You're welcome to come in and poke around.
Thanks. Very cool stuff.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. This is my retreat.
I'm sure it is. I love it.
Yep. I love to be here.
I can completely understand. Can completely understand. Very cool.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too. Let's see. I want to make sure this doesn't fray, so I'm going to add a little of this to be a fray stop. That one's already dry. Okay, and there you have it, the cover. So this is holding inserts for this. What I'm going to do is show you how I stitch together some of these elements. This is a sketchbook. This is a piece of watercolor paper that I wanted in the center. And this one, when it is opened, says, "And she danced under the magic of the moon." These are papers that I selected, and I made this one. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that. And for this one, I'm doing this edge. Snag my nail. No, it's snagging on everything. And then I'm going to do the top and bottom for this, make 2 tucks. Got a little excess here, so I'm just going to pat it. Because you really don't need a lot of this art glitter glue. A tiny bit goes a long way. This one I'll reinforce. I think it only needs 1 reinforcement. I don't think these need to be reinforced. And now we will stitch the book. I've got various papers that are fun papers, and book pages and papers for taking notes. And I center it the best I can, and I'm going to go ahead and bring out a cutting mat here. I'm going to go ahead and poke my awl through eyeballing the center. I do a 5 stitch pamphlet binding. And before I go too far along, I'm going to measure my paper, and you want to go my twine, 1, 2, 3, and yes, this is, I'm using waxed dental floss for these booklets because there's not a lot of pages. When I make bigger booklets, I use rawhide twine or cotton twine that has been waxed. You want it waxed. But these are smaller books, and I want a finer binding. But for thicker stuff, you want a thicker binding. And that's cotton twine that's waxed. And I'm using tapestry needles because this is thin thread. I don't need to have fat holes. So I'm using a fine tapestry needle. And tapestry needles are used because they have a rounded point. It's not going, if I really force it, it'll stick me because this is so thin. But a thicker one, I'd really have to force it into me because it's really a rounded edge. And an even thicker one, so you can see it's not pointing. And the reason for that is because you don't want you don't want to accidentally poke a new hole when you're trying to go through holes you've already poked. I put this in here so I don't lose my needle. It's such a fine needle, it'd be easy if I dropped it to, okay, so now I've got one hole in the middle. I want to go about 1/4 inch from one edge and poke. I'll poke it again through the middle just to realign it. Go to 1/4 edge of the bottom, poke, realign in the center, and go somewhere in between the center poke and the end poke. Now we do these holes, the center 3 holes, just a little bit thicker than the ones on the edge because we go through those holes twice when we do the binding. There we go. And now I'm ready to sew it. Oops. Oh no. What a mess. Okay. I forgot this. It fell out. So, shoot. I'm going to take one sheet of paper. Let me grab this. I'm going to stick this through here. I'm going to take one sheet of paper, line this up, and then I'm going to go through this way because I can see the holes here. Okay, so now I can go back in here and repunch. Do a great job of that. It's there. It's there. It's there. Line this up again. And get this centered good enough. So this is gonna be right on the edge there. Okay. So now do this again. Got this lined up. This lined up. This lined up. This lined up. And this lined up. There we go. See, I'll leave myself a little strip there in the center. And I got this lined up. Uh-oh. Go back through this side, go back in the middle, go to the end, through this hole. Then I go from this hole all the way to this hole. I want to keep this long thread as it is, like that. Don't want to pull these too tight because you don't want it too tight because paper with humidity and heat, it expands and it shrinks. And if you have your bindings too tight, the paper will tear and buckle. I'll go through this hole again. And then we go up through the middle again. And what I want to do is I want to make sure this to the side of the hole there, because I want this to come out on the opposite side of the long piece that we left. Before I do anything, stick my needle in the paper so I don't lose it. And then we just gently make sure see, I've got to make sure that everything got pulled, not too tight, just it's still kind of loose, but not too loose. And then we tie it left over right, and then right over left. And on this last tie, we can tighten the knot because everything else it's not terribly loose, see, but it is flexible. That's why you want to use cotton twine, by the way, because cotton twine is flexible. Now, since I'm going to glue this together and create a pocket, I did this the right way. I did do it the right way. I didn't check to make sure. I can leave that kind of long. And there we have a little pamphlet stitch book. Five stitches, 5-hole pamphlet stitching, pamphlet bound. Get the sharps away from me so I don't cut myself. Okay, now these are beautiful vintage papers. Show some examples of them. Here's an example they're from a book that's very popular with junk journal makers. The Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady. And what's really nice for using these pages in books is they have lovely illustrations, and they're vintage. And I think they're published in the 70s, and the papers weren't the best back in the 70s, so the papers have aged, which is deterioration because they're not the best papers in the world, but it gives you that lovely vintage look. And for a junk journal, that's okay, though it's probably not terribly archival unless you were to seal it with something like acrylic medium. Acrylic medium neutralizes the pH in papers. So look at these lovely illustrations, and they make wonderful pockets and pages and tags and other ephemera. And what I've done is I've gotten a mix of like book pages, old book pages. This is from a very, as you can see, the paper is starting to patina, basically. As it ages, it gets brownish, from an old dictionary, probably older than me, and I'm a grandma. And some cute, these are from this. These books are expensive, but the thing about being a paper artist is you become addicted to papers. But it's got the cutest, and it comes out, I think, quarterly. It has stationery and papers and stickers, and it's fun papers. I only have a couple of them because I'm not going to spend a fortune on that stuff. And I bought a bunch of, and they're actually vintage because years ago, a business that was next door to where I was working as a receptionist they were moving, so they had a moving sale, a moving yard sale, and they were selling all the office equipment and stuff, or not the office equipment, but papers and labels and stuff like that. And they had like these packs of 10 pads of paper for like 50 cents, and it was a pack of 10, and they had all these different colors, so I went and got them. Well, that was back in the early 90s, and I bought a bunch of those packs, and I stuck them in a closet in our home office and forgot about them. And recently I was cleaning out the closet and came across them, and I said, hey, they're vintage now, I can use them in books. So that's how I do the little inserts, little pamphlet binding. And so I will put together the book that I'm going to send to one of my granddaughters. I've got little pamphlet stitch with the papers. I thought the birds were pretty. Oh, I just remembered I need the elastic for centers. Okay, which is a little bit thinner than an elastic. Perfect. Okay. This one I thought was really cute, especially for a teenager. It's just a phase. So that. Set that over that. Do that. And then let's slip this in here. And this one is the sketchbook. The papers that are flipped out. And that's book number 1. And that's that. And like I said, if you wanted to, you could just put whatever papers you want on this part and just put the papers in, cut or tear the papers to fit the elastic and just slip them in. I've done something similar. This one? Is this one bound? This one's bound. I took greeting cards and I made similar items. And this is my own journal, my own art journal. You know, the greeting cards that you get free in the mail. And here, I have a collage journal that I made. And I did it with papers. You can use elastic or you can use yarn. And I just have like junk mail papers. Just junk mail, and I have some fine art papers. And I use it to do collages. See, I did a collage there. I collaged here. Collaged this. Collage that page. This is just junk mail. This is a page out of a, I don't know what, one of textbooks, one of my old textbooks. Another junk mail. From a vintage book. The paper is such fine paper. The book is so old. It's only just starting to patina on the edges, but it's a very fine cotton paper. So this is a tea-dyed paper, book pages, and my own homemade, my handmade paper. I made that paper. Another collage I did on a piece of my tea-dyed paper. More collages. Page from the Edwardian Ladies Journal, Diary of an Edwardian Lady. Piece of vintage stationery that someone had given me. A friend who knows I make books. And more junk mail. A wrapper from, I think, sardines. More of my handmade paper. This is my hand marbled paper. I marbled book pages. Another collage I did on. And then one more. And you can just slip their pages through. And you can remove them if you want. And that's that. Thank you for watching.